driving in a courteous manner, responsible manner as well. Lastly, being able to use the road network independently and responsibly. So this relates to your ability to plan routes, navigate traffic, make independent decisions while driving. It also includes the understanding of the importance of safe, cooperative, and responsible driving. So here are the guiding principles that create uh, the framework for safe and responsible driving. So first is the alternation between theory and practice. So as you might know, the course balances theoretical knowledge and practical application, meaning you have the opportunity to learn the theoretical aspects of road safety and driving, and then you have the chance to put that into practice through hands-on driving experience accompanied by a certified instructor. So in this course, you have 24 hours of theory, which is 12 theory lessons online on the weekends, such as today, like you're doing today. Um, and you also have 15 hours of in-car driving lessons. So those 15 hours are spread out throughout phases 2, 3, and 4. So phase 1 is just a prerequisite to get your learners. Gradually throughout the course, we promote independent driving as it's crucial for your development in making informed decisions and handling various situations on your own. So this encourages you to take responsibility for your own actions and become a confident, independent driver gradually. Number 3, the OA driving strategy. So this strategy is an approach to decision making when you're driving. So we kind of teach you how to observe your surroundings, evaluate potential risks and opportunity, how to act appropriately on the road based on what you know. So being able to observe what's happening around you, how other drivers are driving, what other road users are present, and then how to adapt to it. So how to evaluate what could happen, predict possible situations or potential risks and opportunities, and then how to actually act appropriately according to what you know. So this is something we're going to speak about more in phase 2 of the course. Fourth is eco driving. Eco driving is an approach to minimize fuel consumption, reduce environmental impact. We always encourage drivers to adopt fuel efficient driving habits such as smooth acceleration and braking, proper maintenance of the car, and minimizing idling. So module 12, you actually have a class that covers just eco driving alone. Number 5, lastly, this course highlights the importance of recognizing and avoiding behaviors that increase the risk of accidents. This includes not driving under the influence of alcohol or drugs, avoid speeding, um, making sure that you're always wearing your seatbelts, minimizing distractions, avoid even driving um, under fatigue. So we also emphasize how as a driver you need to be alert and well rested. So essentially, this is the course structure that you're going to be following. I suggest that you guys do keep a picture of this or a track of this somehow. Take a picture of this, or I will send you an email if you ever need it. I can send you this. But it's good for you to have it just so that you always remember where you are in the course or what you have left, what you have to complete. So it is good for you to have this. Um, so the course consists of 4 phases. Phases 1, 2, 3, and 4. Phase 1 is consisted of 5 theory lessons. The fifth one is an evaluation. It's a test to obtain your learner's permit. So all the numbered lessons you see here throughout phases 4, 1 to 4, these numbered lessons are theory lessons that are online on the weekends, such as today. So these are theory lessons, and then here you have in-car sessions. So you have 15 in-car sessions in total throughout phases 2 to 4. 15 in-car sessions, which means 15 hours of driving, and 12 theory lessons, which is 24 hours in total, because each theory lessons is 2 hours. So essentially, phase 1, like I said, is you have to complete modules 1 to 4 in any order. There's no prerequisites. You can complete them in any order, and then you can take the evaluation to obtain your learner's permit. And then once you get your learner's permit, you are able to drive in car um, starting in phase two. But there are still theory lessons, except these classes may not be weekly anymore. Phase one classes are held weekly because you want to complete the evaluation as soon as possible to get your learners. And I'm going to show you why you want to get your learners as soon as possible. And then here they're not weekly anymore. These classes there can be 2 weeks apart, 3 weeks apart, and you're going to see why in the next slide. So yeah, just make sure you remember this is the course structure that you're going to be following. It's 4 phases, 12 theory lessons, 15 hours of driving spread out across the 4 phases. This is the 12-month timeline that you're going to be following in order to obtain your driver's license. So after completing phase one, you obtain the attestation from our school. After you pass the test, you can obtain your learner's permit. So we give you an attestation that says you completed phase one, including the test, and then you can pick up your learner's permit. Once you've held your learner's permit for 10 months, you can go for a knowledge test. It's another theoretical test, except it's done with SAAQ. So module 5 is done with us at the school, but the knowledge test is done with SAAQ. So this is something you actually have to book an appointment and take with them. You have to pass. But again, to do this test, you need to have held your learners for 10 months. So therefore, you have 10 months to actually go for this test. There's no rush. You really need to wait 10 months to do this test, and then you have to wait 12 months to do the road test. So after you pass the knowledge test, you can go for your road test once you've completed the entire course and you've held your learners for 12 months minimum. So you do have to remember this timeline as well. Once you get your attestation for phase one, you can pick up your learners. Once you've held your learners for 10 months, you can do the knowledge test. And then once you've passed the knowledge test and you've held your learners for 12 months, plus you've completed the entire course, you can go for the road test to get your driver's license. So to get your driver's license, you need to pass the knowledge test. You need to complete the entire course. And that's why it takes 12 months, is because of the rules. They won't let you take the test unless you've held your learners for 10 months or 12 for the road test. Are there any questions about the timeline or the course structure?
What happens if you fail the test, the knowledge test?
You just retake it. So the knowledge test it consists of 3 parts, parts A, B, and C. Um, I think in total, so I think question parts A and B are you have to get 6 out of 8 correct for both A and C, A and B. And then part C is 16 questions, you have to get 12 out of 16. Um, so you have to pass each part individually. It's not an overall score, it's each part you have to pass. So you have to pass A, B, and C. If you fail one of them, you just have to go back to do that single part. Let's say you fail part C, you have to go back to do part C.
Is there a fee for taking the test?
I do think there is a small fee, maybe $11 or
Oh, okay.
$30. I don't remember, but yeah, to take the test there is a small fee. For the road test as well, there's a fee.
All right, thanks.
There is also a fee to pick up your learner's permit. I'm pretty sure. I think it's $70 or $80 to pick up your learner's permit. Other than that, is there any questions regarding the timeline or the course structure?
No.
In terms of learning material, so you should have the road access binder. If you register at our school, you should have this binder. It's called, well, it's included inside of the driving under control book that you should have. If you register at a school, you should have received this. This is sufficient. You don't need anything else. But other material that we recommend is maybe this book called Driving a Passenger Vehicle. This is also a good book. It can be found at a library or a bookstore. You can also find a free version online, a PDF version online. Yeah. So you can find it at the library or bookstore or a free version online. This is also a good book to keep. Another one is Driver's Handbook. This is something I would recommend. Not mandatory, of course, but you can also find a free version online of this, I think. As long as you have the road access binder, it's sufficient. It's enough. This is mandatory. These two are recommended, not mandatory, but highly recommended. Again, you can find them at a library or a bookstore, and free version online. Right, so it's important for you to remember the course structure, just so you always have an idea of where you are and what's left. Make sure you keep this in mind. So today's class is on Module 1, where you learn important factors about a vehicle. In this module, we aim to teach you the correct characteristics, the controls, and features of a car. So we're going to go over some important things like how you should position yourself when you're driving. We're going to go over safety features, controls, a little bit about tires, and visibility or communication features. Additionally, we introduce eco driving just to lay the foundation of safe, cooperative, and responsible driving. Along the class, I'll try to give you some tips and advice on how you can maintain your car's condition as well. So, that being said, the targeted competencies are first being able to recognize the personal characteristics that can influence one's behavior as a driver, understanding or identifying the characteristics of ecological, economical, and safety conscious driving. So, in other words, it's the principles of eco driving. And lastly, or mainly, how to prepare the vehicle for travel. So before we begin, we'll do a short page 30 of your book. Um, in this questionnaire, we want you to think about a dream vehicle. So a car you dream of owning or driving. Describe the car's characteristics and features, and ask yourself, why do you dream of driving this vehicle or owning this vehicle? So again, I'll give you 5 to 10 minutes to think about a vehicle you dream of owning. Try to describe the vehicle's main characteristics and why you dream of owning or driving this vehicle. We'll give you 5 to 10 minutes, and then I'll ask you to share.
They expect people to run a rear light, so this rack does have that. So another interesting rear rack is this one by our friends at Tumbleweed. This one is meant to act more like a support, so similar to this, although it does have longer legs to attach to the bottom of the bike. And this one has drilling so you can put water bottles. So this rack, not intended to put painters on it, although they do have a painter version. This one is to act more like a rear bag support and give you options for hydration or even putting anything cage on this. And lastly, while we're at the rear, talking about supports, this is another great option. This is the Erlen rack, designed by our friends at Ocean Air Cycles, executed by Nitto. And this one you actually clamp in between the seat rails. And if your saddle doesn't have saddle loops, you do have to add that. But basically, this works well with Paradise style seat bags or the Swift Industries seat bags, all that good stuff. Hopefully, you can see that there are a ton of options for racks. I know if you're just getting into bikes and you look up the prices of some of these racks, they will shock you. Yes, a nicer rack is expensive. I mean, if you think about a rack like this, it actually has more bends and welds than a bicycle frame. So to manufacture something like this and to do it consistently is actually a lot of work, and that's why you see these racks get really expensive. Do you need an expensive rack to go on a bike adventure? Absolutely not. But if you do a deep dive into the world of rack packing, you will see that there are a ton of cool options. A lot of them are expensive, hard to find, all that stuff. For whatever way you want to pack your bike, there is a rack for you.
Hey everyone, I'm Dustin. I have nearly 20 years experience in the e-bike and bicycle industry, and today I'm going to tell you 11 things I wish I had known before buying an e-bike. Stick around. Alright, so today I'm going to tell you 11 things I wish I had known before buying an e-bike, but before I do, hit that subscribe button below, stay in touch with us here at 630, be the first to know about all the new content we're doing, giveaways, and of course new products we're putting out, so hit subscribe. Alright, so I've owned a couple e-bikes. I've had an e-bike for several years now. I'm going to tell you 11 things I wish I had known before getting an e-bike. Let's jump right in. Number one, not all e-bikes, well, all e-bikes come with a pedal assist option. What this means is when you pedal, the bike is going to give you assistance. The motor is going to kick in, and it's going to assist while you pedal. So if you don't pedal, the motor's not going to kick in. What I didn't know is that some e-bikes come with a throttle. A lot of times it can be a twist throttle or a thumb throttle. So not only will the motor go when you're pedaling, but you can push those throttles or twist that throttle and the bike will go with no pedaling. So that's important to know because when you choose your e-bike, you want to make sure if you think you want a throttle, get a throttle. Now the other thing to know though about that is some cities, states, local places, national parks may not allow e-bikes that have throttles. Now, it's not to say you can't just not use the throttle, but like in Europe as an example, it's pedal assist only. I can't speak to every state here. I know in California you can have a throttle, but it's capped at going up to 20 miles an hour in throttle only. So it's just important that you know the local laws, know what your needs are, and if you want that. So the throttle and pedal assist are two ways that e-bikes can function. Okay, number two thing I wish I'd known is battery sizes. There are lots of different battery sizes, and the number one factor that dictates cost of an e-bike is the battery size. Now, there's also lots of other factors like the material of the bike, steel, aluminum, carbon, all those things. Motor size dictates it, but battery is one of the largest contributors. E-bike battery sizes I've seen range anywhere from like 5 amp hour all the way up to 21 amp hour. And so that really depends on how far you're going to ride or how far you can ride. And you want to consider the battery depending on what type of riding you're going to do. So if you're going to do a lot of hills, you may want a bigger battery. If you're going to do a lot of flat ground short trips, smaller battery. So it's important to look at battery sizes and get a sense of the type of riding you're going to do. Also, the weight of the rider is an important factor to consider when choosing a battery. Heavier riders may want to consider bigger batteries because the heavier you are, the more it will drain the battery when you're riding, especially up hills. So 5 amp hours up to 21 amp hours is probably bigger batteries. Some bikes have dual batteries as well. But just know the price of the bike is really going to be linked to those amp hours of the battery. So you need to pay attention and think about how long do you need your battery to last so you're not overspending for a battery size that you really don't need. Okay, number three thing I wish I had known is motor size. Motor sizes can range from about 250 watts up to 1,000 or 2,000 watts. And again, price is obviously going to, fluctuate based on motor size. What I didn't know is I just didn't know what motor size I needed. 500 watts is a great kind of mid-range starting point for a motor. 250, you're going to save some money. 250 watts are really for smaller e-bikes, great for short trips, under 2-3 miles, 4 miles. And then 1,000 watt plus e-bikes are really more for mountain biking, really serious uphills. The other thing to think about on the motor size is like California's example, you legally cannot have a larger than a 750 watt motor on the street. Now you can take those bigger motors onto private property, on private land, out in the forest. National parks also have limitations on motor sizes, but certain, again, parks and other places, you might be able to take 1,000 watt plus motors to certain mountain bike trails, things of that nature. So just something to think about, where you're going to ride, what kind of hills you're going to do, how much do you weigh is also a factor when thinking about motors. If you're over 300 pounds and you're going to be riding on a lot of hills, you probably want to look at a 750 watt motor. Um, but if you're going to do flat ground, 500 watt is good, for most riders. So just what I wish I'd known. I wish I'd known a little bit more about motor sizes. So pay attention to that spec when you're going to buy an e-bike. All right. I also wish I'd known a little bit more about frames. So there's tons of frames for e-bikes. What I mean by frames is there's like littler frames, there's taller full-size bike frames, and the frame that you buy is really going to dictate how you're going to use that e-bike. Some of these 20-inch frames now, they have pedals, but they're really not practical for pedaling in the sense of, you know, you're not going to want to ride long distances. You can get frames like 630 has e-bikes that are regular bike frames, and they're actually great for riding and doing the pedal assist because they're set up and they look like a normal bike. So they're comfortable. You can get, um, good pedal strokes out of it. And so the other thing with the frame is the comfort. Are you looking for comfort? Are you looking for the aesthetic? So it's just important to think about what's important to you. Again, at 630.
All right, so I'd like to hear some of you. So Philippe, what's your dream car or vehicle you dream of driving or owning?
Just one that's reliable and has good control and supports Android Auto. I don't really have a name.
See, your mic isn't muted, but I can't hear you.
Oh,
Maybe you're if
sorry,
you
I
have
had
a
a double mute on. Uh,
mm,
yeah, my dream car is one that's reliable and has good control and
okay.
supports Android Auto.
Okay, so nothing, no particular brand or model. It's just something that you said again. What was the characteristics you're looking for?
Reliable and good
Reliable, okay,
control. Yeah.
good control. Are those the only features that matter to you?
I mean, I want to have AC, and maybe the ability to shift up and down, uh,
Okay. And
like
what
more
about
aggressive.
size?
Size, 4 seats.
4 seats, okay. All right. What about you, Deshaun?
To be honest, I don't really have a dream car, but I said the BMW i8, but
Mm-hmm.
not because of the features, but because of the design.
Design.
Yeah.
Okay. Fair enough. Yes, so thank you for sharing. So the reason why we have this activity is because often for some drivers, not everyone, their choice of vehicle could reflect who they are and what they believe. A lot of the times they might drive for reasons other than just going from point A to point B. They might drive to show off or seek thrills, freedom, maybe receive attention and acknowledgement from their peers, all of which can influence your driving behavior, which is what you're going to be learning more about throughout the course. However, today we're more focused on the car and not the driver. Yeah, today we're more focused on the car and not the driver. So before you drive away, it's crucial to have a working knowledge of your vehicle's controls and gauges. You need to familiarize yourselves with how to read gauges and understand what the warning lights mean, as well as where they can be found should issues with the car arise, making the vehicle risky to drive. You should always refer to the vehicle's owner manual to familiarize yourselves with the vehicle. Today, we're just going to go over some of the important basic features common to all vehicles. These are features such as the pedals, seat belts, steering wheels, mirrors, and more. So let's start off by talking about the two main safety features, which are the seat belts and airbags. So you'll notice that the road safety education program emphasizes the use of seatbelts. The first of many reasons is because every single passenger in the vehicle is legally required to wear a functional seatbelt properly. The consequences of this offense is 3 demerit points and a fine of 115 to 154. Additionally, any child whose sitting height is less than 63 centimeters must ride in a child safety seat. Again, the consequences of this offense is 3 demerit points and a fine of 115 to 154. It is prohibited to drive a car with a passenger under the age of 16 who's not wearing a seatbelt. The penalty for driving without respecting this will go to the driver. However, if the passenger is above 16, then the passenger will accrue the penalty themselves. So this is very important for you to remember. If you're driving with a passenger who's under the age of 16, then you will accrue the penalty yourself. Um, if you're driving with a passenger who's above 16, they will accrue the penalty themselves. So it's very important for you to remember that. So if the passenger is under age 16, you will accrue the penalty. If they're above it, they will accrue the penalty themselves. It's also prohibited to drive a car with a missing seatbelt for the driver or a passenger, and we're not allowed to alter or remove a vehicle seatbelt and render them unusable. All seatbelts must be functional, otherwise, the consequences of this offense could be a fine of 274 to $438. So how to wear a seatbelt properly? A seatbelt has two parts. The lap belt, which must be worn snug and flat across the hips, not over the abdomen, and then the shoulder belt that must be placed flat over your shoulder and across the chest, not across your neck. One thing to note is pregnant women must also always wear a seatbelt. They're especially vulnerable, and therefore it's even more important for them to wear a seatbelt at all times. And again, in the case that a child needs to be seated in a child safety seat, you need to install it according to the manufacturer's instructions. So if the child's sitting height is less than 63 centimeters, they need to be seated in a child safety seat that's installed according to the manufacturer's instructions. Now, to test if the seatbelt works well, you can quickly pull on the shoulder belt to replicate an impact, and you should feel that the belt is locked in place and unable to be pulled further. This is how the belt prevents you from flying forward and it keeps you in place. So you replicate an impact by pulling on the shoulder belt really quickly, and you should feel that the belt is locked in place and unable to be pulled further. Again, this is how it prevents you from flying forward. The second safety feature we have in cars is the airbags. They are electronically activated inflated bags, which are only deployed upon contact with an object at about 35 kilometers per hour or more. So the bag is inflated with gas at a tremendous pressure, and it inflates and deflates in less than a second to reduce head injuries. So the picture here shows that cars have different airbags to protect different parts of the body. We have the front airbags to protect our heads from hitting the steering wheel or the dashboard. There are lateral airbags to protect our sides. Car manufacturers, they will label these locations of airbags, and it's important for you to know where these locations are for your own safety. Given that the airbags deploy with high pressure, it's also important that you know children um, is too risk the pressure is too risky for a child's body to survive, and therefore kids should always be in the back seat while their body still develops to become stronger. So the pressure of airbags is too high, so it's too risky for a child's body to survive. Therefore, children should be seated in the back. We should also make sure that once an airbag has been deployed, all of its components must be replaced properly by the manufacturer so that it works again. So if an airbag ever deploys, you make sure that you replace the components properly. So it is said that airbags with seatbelts reduce 75% of the risk associated with serious head injuries. Small true or false question. In Quebec, you can have as many passengers in your car as you wish, provided that they are all seated. Is this true or false?
I'm gonna guess it's true.
Is this true or false? So in Quebec, you can have as many passengers in your car.
I'm gonna guess true.
True? Okay. Let's check if it's true. Yeah, so the answer is false. The number of occupants in a passenger vehicle must not exceed the number of seatbelts installed in the vehicle. So this is just to emphasize that it's not a matter of how many seats you have in the car, it's a matter of how many seatbelts you have in the car. So if you have three working seatbelts, you can have up to three passengers. If you have four functional working seatbelts, you can have up to four passengers. But you can't have five passengers and only four working seatbelts. It's making sure that they're well seated and they also have a working seatbelt. So now we're going to talk about the other parts of the car relevant to adjusting your seating position so that you can access the other controls of the car, such as the pedals or the steering wheel. So firstly, we have the pedals. In this course, we only cover automatic cars where there are generally two pedals in the vehicle. The way on the right is the gas pedal, also known as the accelerator. The accelerator is used to control the speed of the car. So if you apply more pressure or you press down on the gas pedal, you're going to pick up more speed. However, if you let go or release the pedal, your car will start to slow down and then eventually come to a full stop. So the gas pedal is to pick up more speed. On the left of the accelerator is the brake pedal, which is used to slow down and stop the vehicle. So when you press on it or you apply pressure, your car will start to slow down or come to a full stop. Now for foot placement, just bring it up. Now for foot placement, so here, when you're driving, you should only use your right foot, not your left, and you can't use both. You should only be using your right foot. Your right foot's heel should be planted into the floor, and you're supposed to use the ball of your foot to pivot between the pedals and maintain control. So remember, you're only using your right foot, and you just pivot between the two pedals with your heel planted into the floor. So remember this, you can't use both feet. You're supposed to use your right foot only. Just pivot between the pedals with your heel planted into the floor. So this is your foot position, foot placement. So next for the seat, before putting your car in motion and driving, you must always adjust your seat to the correct distance. So the correct distance is achieved when your legs remain slightly bent and you can reach the top of the steering wheel. Um, yeah, so you make sure your legs are slightly bent and you can reach the top of the steering wheel with the palm of your hand without moving your shoulders forward. So this allows you to push the steering wheel into a turn with less effort and allows you to push the pedals without fully extending your legs. And then as for the front and backrest adjustment, you should be completely backed up into your seat. Your back should be rested against the backrest. Your backrest shouldn't be inclined or too upright. So it shouldn't be straight up like this. It should be a slight incline, not too inclined, but not too upright as well. So slightly in the middle. So for the steering wheel, adjust it so that you can steer the vehicle with ease and comfort with a clear view. You should be able to see the dashboard clearly. You should be able to see everything in front of you clearly as well. Now, the ideal hand position is, so imagine the steering wheel is a clock. So think of the steering wheel as a clock. Um, the ideal hand position is your right hand on 3 o'clock and your left hand on 9 o'clock. The reason why these zones are in red is because you can seriously injure your wrist if an airbag does deploy. So if an airbag were to deploy, you can seriously injure your wrist. You can even break your wrist. And therefore, the ideal hand position is right hand on 3, left hand on 9. And examiners, when you go for your road test, will actually evaluate this. So when you're driving, you should be driving with both hands, not just one. So remember that when you're driving with both hands, you should be uh, right hand on 3, left hand on 9. So we'll do a quick overview of the dashboard. We have the speedometer telling us what speed we're driving at. We have the odometer telling us how far the vehicle has traveled overall. There's the fuel level indicator, as well as the engine temperature indicator to make sure that the engine is not too hot. The dashboard also has many warning lights for various purposes, such as your high beam is on, which is the headlights. The battery needs to be recharged, or if it has issues, this warning light would appear. Um, ABS warning lights. So this is if your emergency brake is up while you're driving. I'm going to show you what the parking brake is. If someone is missing a seatbelt, if any of the car doors are open, if your car is skidding, so if you're driving on a slippery surface, you might find this. And if your hood is open or your trunk is open, and then this is the check engine light. So if you have a problem with the engine, then you have to go see a mechanic. You can also buy a system that will tell you what is wrong with your engine. If you have, you can find that at Canadian Tire. You can buy it, and then we'll tell you what problem your engine has. So most of those warning lights you can find online as well to just have an idea, but you can always look up. If you do see a warning light, you can always look it up as well. Moving on to the headrest. So the headrest plays a crucial role in protecting the driver against injuries. It must be adjusted to where the center of the headrest reaches the height of your ears, and the distance between your head and the headrest should not exceed 7 centimeters. So if the headrest is placed too low or at the height of your neck, it won't be much use because, let's say in the event of a rear end collision, your head will be thrown back by a neck injury. So very important to adjust your headrest to where the center of the headrest reaches the height of your ears, and the space between your head and the headrest should not exceed 7 centimeters. Another thing you must do before driving is adjusting your mirrors, starting with the rear view mirror. When you adjust the rear view mirror, you should use your right hand. You should be seated. Try not to move your shoulders. So this is a rear view mirror. A well-adjusted rear view mirror allows you to see the entire back window, everything behind you. With the side mirrors here, you should be able to see the handle of your car or fender of your vehicle, and then see what's on the lane next to you. So why I say you should be able to see a little bit of your vehicle is because it's to give you a reference point as to how far they are from you on the sides. So many new drivers, what they do is they adjust the mirror to where they're able to see the entire lane, but they're not able to see a little bit of their vehicle or a little bit of like the side of their car. And this is very dangerous because yes, you can see everything on your side, but you don't have a reference point, and therefore it can be hard for you to evaluate how far to the left or to the right they are from you. So if you see a little bit of your vehicle along with the side, then you can tell like, okay, this person is directly on my left. He's far here, but my car is here, so you can evaluate how far to the left he is or how far to the side he is. So it's very important that you have a little bit of a reference point just so that you can tell how far to the left or to the right he is from you. Make sure you adjust your mirror to where you're able to see the entire lane next to you, along with a little bit of your of your vehicle, just to have a reference point. And to adjust these side mirrors, you would use these settings here, which are normally found on the left of the steering wheel. This is to choose which mirror you want to switch or adjust. If it's the right mirror, the left mirror, and then here you can choose the direction. If you need it higher or to the sides, you can choose here. As a driver, you must know and be aware of your blind spots as well. Blind spots are angles that are just behind the driver on the left and the right hand sides that you can't see with your mirrors. So before you changing lanes, you always have to check, physically turn your head over your shoulder, check these spots, blind spots, to make sure that they're clear. So blind spots are these cars here in the red zones, you can see. So these are spots that you're not able to see with the side mirror. With the side mirror, you can see everything in the purple. So the left mirror allows you to see this. The right mirror allows you to see everything here. And then with the rear view mirror that's inside of the vehicle, you can see everything behind you, including what's on the left and the right as you go further and further. So the rear view mirror lets you see everything behind you. The side mirrors let you see everything on your sides, on your left and right, but they don't allow you to see the blind spots. So these are spots directly on your left and your right that you actually have to physically turn your head over your shoulder to view, to check. And it's very important because let's say you wanted to change lanes and you didn't see this car, it would probably result in an accident. And that's why it's important to check your blind spots at all times before you change directions or switch lanes or even turn, even coming out of parking spots as well. So anytime you're entering or exiting traffic, you should be checking your blind spots. And open the book for you here as well. By the way, you can also follow me in your book, Module 1. So we spoke about driving position, we spoke about pedals, seating, steering wheel, headrest. We spoke about rear view mirrors just now and the blind spots. Safety features we spoke about, so airbags along with seatbelts. Now we're talking about the starter switch, so some of the controls of the vehicle. So here is the starter switch. This is to start the vehicle, the engine. So as you can see here, there are mainly 4 positions. There's lock, accessory, on, and start. So when you turn the key to accessory, what this does is it allows electrical accessories to operate with the engine off. So this means if you wanted to, for example, turn on the radio or Bluetooth, AC, or heating system, you can turn it on with accessory. So this means that you can use these electrical accessories without having the engine on. So you can use these without turning on the car. Lock, it locks the steering wheel and automatic gear shift lever, meaning you can't move the gear shift lever. So you're gonna see what the gear shift lever is soon. It's right here. So you can't put your car in reverse or neutral drive if your gear shift lever is locked. On just simply means the engine is stopped, but the steering wheel is unlocked. On means all electrical circuits are operating. And then start, what this does is it cranks the engine, release the key as soon as the engine is started, and you check all warning lights. So basically, the starter switch enables you to start the engine or turn on the electrical components of a car while having the engine off. To turn on the engine, you must crank the engine by turning the key from the lock position all the way to the start position and hold the key and start for just a few seconds as the engine ignites. And then you guide the key back to on. So basically, to turn on the engine, you would turn the key from lock all the way to start. You hold it there just for a few seconds until the engine starts, and then you guide the key back to on. You never want to hold it on start. You only hold it just to start the engine, and then you turn it back to on. You're gonna see this in your in-car session. The parking brake, also known as the handbrake, is used after a car is parked in case not the emergency, the regular brake system fails. So this brake system is a separate system from your regular brake system, and it's applied only to the back wheels. So your car has two brake systems. It has the emergency brake system that's applied only to the back wheels, and it also has a regular brake system. So the parking brake here is used in case of your regular brake system failure. So if you pull this up, it's an emergency brake. When you park your car, it's important to keep this one up as well, especially if you're driving if you park on a hill. Just in case your regular brake system fails, you have this one up so your car won't start rolling down the hill or going uphill. In case your brake system fails.
Can
So
it
again, this is yeah.
can it be used
You have a
while
question?
driving?
While driving, yes. If you can't stop your car with with the regular brake, then you can use this as well.
Okay.
But it's very dangerous to do that. Like you shouldn't use this for no reason. If your regular brake system is fine, you don't use it. But this is normally used as a parking brake. So only when you park your car, and in case your regular brake system fails during the night, you have this one up. While you're driving, though, if your regular brake doesn't work, then you can use this as an emergency brake. Or if let's say you're driving with someone as a learner, and you don't have a double brake in your car, then the person accompanying you might use the parking brake or the emergency brake in case. But again, it's dangerous, and it can it's like it's like you're slamming the brakes really quick, because this will apply as just like that. As soon as you pull off the lever, your car will stop. And if you're driving at a high speed, this can be dangerous. You can lose control. Your car can even flip if you're driving at a high speed. Next, we have the automatic transmission gear shift. So, so these should be intuitive. P for parking, used to start the engine while transmission is locked. So this, when your car is in park, you can turn on the car, so starting the engine, and then you can put it to D for drive. R for reverse activates the backup light. So if you're reversing, if you're backing up, then you would put your car in reverse, R, and this will activate the backup light so drivers around you or people around you know that you're backing up. That's a way of communicating as well. N for neutral starts the engine but used to tow or so neutral is to start the engine, but if you just wanted to tow or push your vehicle, you can put it on neutral. D is what you're going to be using day to day. So if you're driving under normal conditions, you would use drive. And then 3-2-1 or 3-2 low is gear shifts used to drive on hills or difficult road conditions by using the engine compression to reduce the overheating of brakes. So 3-2-1 is depending on how difficult the road conditions are. In your book, you can also see so here 3 is to drive under moderately difficult conditions and hilly roads. 2 is for driving under more severe conditions and moderately steep hills. Again, it uses the engine's compression to reduce overheating your brakes. And first or low is driving on steep hills to reduce brake fade, or you can use it for snow or bumpy, sandy roads by using engine compression.
Is that the same as engine braking?
Sorry?
Is that the same as braking with the engine?
Braking with the engine?
Yeah.
I don't know what you mean.
What is engine's compression?
You're asking what engine compression is?
Yeah.
So it's used to, so it's so that your brakes don't overheat when you're driving on steep hills, because you're going to be pressing on the brake a lot. But when you put it on first gear, it really reduces the brake fade.
Okay.
But normally you don't. 3-2-1 is very rare. Like even in Montreal, under snowy roads, you won't really be using 3-2-1. You can still use drive. It won't affect your vehicle.
Oh, does this set the sorry, it sets the transmission so that the engine uses a higher RPM?
Mm.
Oh, okay, okay, all right, thanks.
Yeah, so you won't really be day to day. You won't be using 3-2-1. Even in the winter, you probably won't be using it. You can use drive, park, and reverse day to day. This is really for only really bad weather conditions and hilly roads or steep hills. Next, we have visibility features. Um, so the windshield. So windshield, you just have to make sure that it's clearly visible, no cracks, or else it would be dangerous. So make sure there's no cracks and it's also clearly visible. So you make sure your windshield wipers are working as well, because you never know when you're driving on the highway in the winter and maybe a truck splatters your windshield. In that case, you want to make sure that you can wipe it off and you're able to see everything in front of you clearly. Sun visors are also very useful for the sun because sometimes the sun glare could reduce your visibility, and so it's important to make sure that you have sun visors in case. So those are visibility. Here we have the heating, ventilation, and AC. Here you can choose the air pressure that you want. So if you want it at a moderate air pressure or a very high blast, full blast, you can put it at 4. If you don't want it on at all, you can put it at 0 to choose the air pressure. And here you can choose the temperature. So if you want it moderately cold or as cold as possible, max AC, you can choose it here. Same thing for heating. If you want it moderately heating or full heat, you can choose the temperature here. So here's the temperature, and then here's the air pressure that you want. And then here you can choose where you want the air to go. So if you want it more focused on your upper body, you can choose this setting. If you want it at your feet and your upper body, you can choose this setting. If you just want it for the feet, you can use this setting. Here, this is the defogger. So this defogs your windows, including your windshield. So you can use these as defoggers, especially in the winter if you see that your windows or your side mirrors, some side mirrors also have defoggers. You have to look at your car though. Some cars don't have that. Um, but if your car has a side mirrors defoggers, you can use those to defog the mirrors along with the windshields. So the back windshield is this button here to activate it, and here's for your windows. So if you want the defogger while you want the heating on at the same time, you can use this setting. And if you just want the defogger, you can use this setting. And then of course to turn on the AC, you would use this. And if you want to block out air ventilation or air circulation from the outside, then you can use this button as well. So this can vary depending on the car that you have, the model, the brand, but normally, generally, the settings are the same. Communication features. So to communicate with other drivers, you would use your lights. Very important that all lights are working. Um, so headlights off, or if you see the high mounted brake light on, that means that the other car is braking. So that means the driver is pressing or applying pressure on the brake pedal. If you see if you see the high mounted brake light, that means that the driver is applying pressure on the brake light, so that means they can slow down or they're coming to a full stop. So it's a way of communicating that. Remember reversing, if you push your car in R for reverse, it means it's going to activate the backup light to let other drivers know you're reversing. Headlights off and turning left. So this is the left signal indicator to communicate that you're turning left. Same thing for the right side. You might not be able to see it because of this, but it's the same thing but on the right side. And if both lights are on, so both signals are on, it's because of the hazard warning lights are on. So if you have an emergency and you want to let other drivers know that you have an emergency, you're giving them the right to pass by, go around you. Then you can turn on the hazard warning lights by pressing on this button here, normally found between uh, the passenger and the driver's seat. This is the hazard warning light. Again, this is the brake lights. So when a car or a driver is applying pressure on the brake, you will see that their lights are activated. So this is their way of communicating that they're slowing down or coming to a full stop. So you as a driver should also be stopping or slowing down. Other communication features, so there's also the horn. But remember, the use of the horn should be only reserved for the warning of immediate danger. So if you see like a car merging into your lane, not checking their blind spots, and there's a risk of a collision there, in that case you could use it to warn them of your presence. But otherwise, if there's no reason, if you're doing it out of frustration or discomfort, you shouldn't be using the horn. So I won't really talk about this. The main thing here I want to point out is that cars have different type of headlights. So there's the high beam and then there's the low beam. I'll show you the difference of both. So high beam versus low beam. High beam allows you to see at a greater length further. It's a lot more powerful, and therefore high beam should not be used on the roads unless it's very, very, very dark. If it's pitch dark, no lights at all, like in a rural area, in that case you could use your high beam. Except if you see a car coming in the opposite direction, you should switch back to low beam so that you don't blind the other driver, because it can be blinding. It could create a safety hazard. So high beam should not be used. You actually do have to turn it off if you see oncoming traffic. Low beam is also headlights, but it doesn't allow you to see that far out. So generally, when you're driving at night, your low beam should be on, but not your high beam. Your high beam should never be on. It can blind other drivers. It's a safety hazard. So just remember, make sure when your headlights are on, you're not using the high beam. You're using low beam. So this is the low beam. This is high beam. Just wanted to make sure you understood that. Otherwise, there's should be intuitive. Not very important for you to know. Every car has a license plate area and high mounted brake light. Okay, so it's 240. Let's take a 10-minute break. We'll come back at 250. So break until 250. See you after the break. Okay, so coming back from the break, uh, so preparing the vehicle for travel. So before you actually go on the road and you put your car in motion, it's important that you check these 12 things. So first of all, number one, check for possible leaks or objects under the vehicle or around the vehicle. So check for cracked glass. If there's any pets under the tires or anything around the tires or around the vehicle, you should check for possible leaks. Number two, check the body for any scratches that you might have never noticed. So that way you have an idea of when the scratch happened. So check the body for rust, things like that. Number three, side windows. So just make sure that they're clear. So in the winter, you can make sure that you can actually physically turn your head over your shoulder to check the blind spots through your side windows. Very important that they're clear and you're able to see through them. Number four, the rear window. Make sure that it's also clear because you want to be able to see what's happening behind you through your rear view mirror. And then number five, the lights. Again, lights are very important because it's a way of communicating with other drivers. So make sure that they're functional and they're working. Six is license plate. You need to have a license plate on your car, or a police officer could stop you. So if you don't have a physical license plate, at least make sure you have a copy on, like, glued to your mirror or your window, here, or taped to your window. Number seven, make sure your exhaust pipe is good, is clear, nothing is blocking it. Heat your tires as well. Make sure they're not flat. Um, Make sure your tires are working well and they're inflated properly, not under pressure. Number nine, windshield. Make sure that it's clear. Windshield wipers should be working as well because, again, if you drive on the highway and the truck splatters your windshield, you need to make sure that you can clean it while you're driving. Number 11, rear view mirror, which is inside, has to be working well. Has to be positioned well so that you can see everything. Number 12, your headlights should be working as well because if you're driving at night and you can't see everything in front of you, it can be a safety hazard. For regular maintenance checks, so tires, you need to make sure that you have a pair of winter tires and summer tires as well, or all season tires. So the winter tires have to be equipped starting on December 1st, all the way up until, I believe, March 15th. The date is in your book, I have to check again, but it's normally from December 1st to March 15th. You need to have a pair of winter tires and summer tires. And here there's a different problems with your tires. So if you have an edge or a toe wear, it can be a problem, alignment problem with your vehicle. Same thing with camber wear, or if it's worn out at the tire in the center, it can be a sign that your tires are overinflated. If it's wearing out on the edges, it could be underinflated. If you have patchy wearouts, your car might be out of balance. If you have cup wear, then it could be bent or worn out suspension. Again, we only cover automatic vehicles in this course, but a clutch pedal is used to switch between gears in a manual vehicle. Battery and alternator, make sure that they're working well because, as you can see here, I think we're missing an image, but so battery and alternator here. Um, the alternator recharges the battery as the vehicle's engine is running. So the alternator is used to recharge this battery while the vehicle is running. If it fails to do so, the battery will drain and lose its power. And a diagnosis of your electrical system, for example, the fan belt, alternator charging capacity, and starter, should be done to prevent loss of power. So the battery is you need the battery to start the vehicle and use other electrical components. The alternator is used to recharge the battery while your car is running. So the alternator has to be working, or else you could lose power in your battery. windshield washer and fluid. Also very important. So it's not enough to have your windshield wiper working. Sometimes you will need windshield washer and fluid. Um, so we always recommend that you keep windshield washer in your car, minus 40 degrees for Montreal here. This is very good. You keep one in your car just in case you ever need to refill. This is used to also clean your windshield wipers for your windshield. And when you would need to refill it, you would put it here under where the cap has this image. So this is where you would pour your windshield washer. Motor oils. So once you get a car, you will need to regularly check your oil or change your oil. For some cars, it could be 3 months. For other cars, it can be 6 months. You regularly have to go for changing your oil. But essentially, what they do is they dip a stick into the oil, and they would check the color and also where how much oil you have. So if it reaches the second level and the color is fine, it's not too dirty, then it's okay. If it doesn't reach that high, then it might be a good idea to top up, so add more motor oil. And if it's very dirty, such as this one, it could be a good idea to change your oil. Car storage compartment. So of course you can use a trunk to for groceries or big bags, luggages, etc. There's also car storage inside of the vehicle itself. For example, underneath the steering wheel, some cars have this. There's also the pockets on the doors. On the passenger side, there's the passenger compartment. And I wouldn't recommend anything here because it's considered a loose object. If you put papers here or anything, and you open your sun visor, it could fall out and can be a distraction. So we never recommend to put anything here. Use the compartments on your doors, on your in the passenger compartment, the trunk, or even the in between the passenger seat. Here, there's also storage compartment. The idea is to not have any loose objects while you're driving. Roof storage, so you can make sure you consider car roof capacity and not the rack capacity. So if you were to buy a rack from, for example, Canadian Tire, make sure that you consider the car roof's capacity, not the rack capacity. When you put things on top of the car roof, you have to consider the roof capacity, not the capacity of the rack. So on the box of the rack capacity, it might say that you can carry up to 200 kilograms or maybe 200 pounds, but the car roof might not be able to handle that. So you have to consider how much your car roof can handle, not how much the car rack can handle. Transporting pets. So make sure when you're transporting pets, you use proper harness or cages. So again, the idea is to make sure that they're locked in place. They're not distracting you or running around. They could be impulsive at times, just like children. Unpredictable. You never know when they have a reaction. So make sure you put the proper harness to keep them in place and keep them safe and not distract you while you're driving. So in this module, we also introduce eco driving, which is a cost-efficient approach to minimize fuel consumption and the impact that we leave on the environment. So these principles include driving in a manner that is safe, economical, less expensive, and environmentally friendly. So true or false, does eco driving have an effect on other road users? The answer is true. So you do have a positive influence on road safety by reducing the risks of collision. And this is because you have better anticipation of the behavior of other road users. When you're following eco driving approach, you gradually accelerate and decelerate. You're not, slamming the accelerator or slamming the brakes. You gradually want to drive. You want to drive with a smooth style. You would normally drive at a constant speed, not over accelerating, decelerating, and you're also maintaining safety margins. So you do have a positive influence on road safety. These all help reduce the risks of collision. From the advantages of eco driving, of course, it's safer driving because you're supposed to keep a longer following distance, so you never tailgate, never follow too closely, keep a large following distance in front of you. You have better anticipation of traffic, you reduce your speed, you drive at a more appropriate speed, and you have more predictable behavior. So other drivers have an easier time predicting how you'll behave when you're following an eco driving approach. There's also more advantages, such as reduced fuel cost, the benefit to the environment, greater comfort for driver and passengers, because again, you're following a much smoother driving style, fewer accelerations, it creates less stress, which creates more comfort for driver and passengers. And also, you reduce your fuel cost because you're not over accelerating and decelerating, which consumes more fuel. This, in the long run, can also reduce your maintenance costs. For example, your brakes won't wear out as fast, your tires won't wear out as fast, and other mechanics as well. So this reduces your maintenance costs for the vehicle. So the right question to ask before you buy a vehicle, the first question you should ask yourself is, do you truly need a vehicle? So what are the reasons for having a vehicle? What are you using it for? Because you need to take into account some of these points, such as the cost of the vehicle. So it's not just depending on what you buy. If you're looking for a brand new vehicle, it can be, depending on the price or the model, the brand, and everything. But it's not just the 20K that you spend on a new vehicle or the 30K or the 50K you spend on the car. You will need to pay for registration. You'll need to pay for the license plate. You'll need to pay for regular maintenance, um, motor change, not motor, sorry, oil changes. If you can't do it yourself, you will need to pay for that. And then the regular gas expenses. Now gas is very expensive as well. Um, so you have to take all these costs into expense. How much will it cost to just maintain the car? What is my monthly payment if you choose to finance it, or if you're paying it in cash, in full? So you have to take into account the cost of the vehicle, the maintenance, and everything. And then, truly ask yourself, do you really need a vehicle when there are other options such as public transit or cycling in the summer, walking more, or carpooling with people? So these are also alternatives. You can also rent a vehicle when you need one. For example, I have friends who live downtown Montreal, and to get to work, they can just walk or take a bike. Um, or if they need it, they can always use the metro, SDM, to get to places. But normally they bike or walk, take the metro, or and then if they need to rent a car, they would rent a car for example, going to trips to Ottawa to visit their parents or to Toronto. So in those cases, once a month they would rent a car. So if you don't truly need a vehicle, you can always rent a car when you need it. You can also have a vehicle sharing program. So if you have a partner, maybe a family, a relative, a sibling, or a partner who's willing to go on a vehicle sharing program, you can also decide to do that. So maybe split the costs or split the expenses of a vehicle. But also you can always carpool with someone. Or there's also another system you can use, Caminoto. It's another vehicle renting program. You pay a monthly fee, and you can always use the Caminoto that are available pretty much everywhere in Montreal. You can also use Caminoto to get around. So the main thing is just remember, before you buy a vehicle, just take into account the costs, think about the alternatives, and yeah. So if you don't truly need it, you can always think about the alternatives. All right. So is there any questions about today's class, including even the presentation of the course? Is there anything about the course or anything about today's class that wasn't clear and you have any questions about?
Yeah. Yeah, do you know the passing rate for the knowledge test?
Passing rates. Like I said, the knowledge test consists of three parts: A, B, and C. Parts A and B, you have to get 6 out of 8. And part C, you have to get 12 out of 16.
Yeah. Do the different parts have like different subjects?
No, not necessarily, no. They're all, actually, does it also have a different? I don't think so. I think they're all random. You need
Okay.
to get 6 out of 8. But I think part C is more illustrated scenarios. Um, but yeah, they're all mixed. If you know all the traffic rules, everything you apply them to every question, you should be fine.
Okay.
But the knowledge test is far. It's like I said, you once you get your learners, you have to wait 10 months to actually go for that test. So it's far from you. So you have 10 months to prepare for it,
Okay.
and I'll give you resources to help you prepare as well. Okay, so there's no other questions. You guys are free to go. You guys were a small group. I think we gave 2 classes this weekend, so some of the phase 1 students joined the other class this morning, and then you two joined today. So it's okay. You guys are free to go. Have a good weekend. We'll see you next week.
All right. Thank you. Bye.